Hi, welcome one and all to the second episode of the Beginner Openings Bootcamp. Last time we covered the England Gambit, which is a gambit played by Black, and today we'll be continuing with that by playing another opening from Black, which is my personal favorite actually, the Caro-Kann defense. And so the point of the Caro-Kann defense, these videos are made for beginners, so just to start off, it's a response to the move e4. And e4 is best by test, as Bobby Fischer once said. It's the best opening as white, theoretically, compared to anything else. So you see it a lot at all levels, especially early levels. You'll see a Scholar's Mate. And the Caro-Kann actually defends against this. So if you're a beginner, I would recommend learning this because honestly, it's simple, has only 4 really major lines that you need to know. 3 that you need to know, but 4 major ones. And it's relatively self-explanatory, and it's a way to fight for the center. So without further ado, here's the Caro-Kann. The Caro-Kann starts with c6. And this is for going from playing something like e5, which would counter in the center, or playing like a Sicilian or a French. Instead, it's off to the sides, but we're planning to play d5. And so if you play online chess, you can go ahead and say c6 and then immediately pre-move d5 because there's really no other move you're gonna play here because you're already committed to these 2 moves. But it starts with c6. So what I see a lot, especially at lower levels, since you decide to not go for the center squares, you see an immediate d4. It's just taking control of the center. Honestly, probably the best move in this position. There's other lines that we'll go through, but this is what you'll see at most levels, most commonly. And then, of course, finishing the Caro-Kann, which is d5. And there are 3 major ways, which we'll go through here, that they can respond to the Caro-Kann. First one, of course, is just take. This is known as the exchange variation. And then the second one that you see, usually they think they're being tricky with this one. I don't really think so because I think that you can have an equally good as game. But you see this a lot, which is the advanced variation where they just advance their pawn. And then, of course, they don't have to take at all. This is the classical variation. You will also see this. Just to get out of the way, there's a 4th variation known as the fantasy variation, which you will barely ever see. I've played probably 700 games with the Caro-Kann and never, I've seen it probably once or twice because this just goes, you take, e5, take, you take their queens, they won't, it's more theory for a beginner to know, and I barely know it. So we will not be covering this, but let's go ahead and go through the most basic variation, which is the exchange. Obviously, you immediately take with pawn. You don't want to take with queen because they will immediately threaten, and then they gain tempo on you. Now they're developing, and you have nothing. So you want to take with pawn immediately. Let's say they just respond, attacking your pawn. It's protected by the queen, so you're fine. Immediately bring this knight out. It just protects the king, and it puts some pressure on their pawn, which is what I do every time I pre-move this move, because you don't really see anything else unless they take d5. And so then they bring another knight out. You bring your knights out. Of course, knights before bishops, as Gotham Chess says. Shout out to Gotham Chess. And then I would not immediately push that. I would immediately, sorry for that, bring bishop to g4. This puts a pin on the queen through the knights. They can't move their knight unless you win the queen, and it develops your bishop before you go ahead and make this move. And of course, they go ahead. Maybe they put a pin on the same thing. Maybe they take. Doesn't matter. You'll just take back. Let's say they put the pin. You're just looking to play e6. E6 is the complete idea for this position because you're trying to get this bishop out so you can go ahead and castle. So here, let's say they go ahead and castle. You bring the bishop out. Now you're ready to castle. And the engine says this is actually in favor for black, which I agree, by 0.4 points. So I really like this position. I've seen this position a lot. And the exchange variation for a beginner, I would say, is probably one of the best variations you're going to get out of the Caro-Kann. So let's go ahead and go back to the original setup and cover the advanced variation. So the advanced variation, the first critical move for the main line is bishop c5. And that's because we're gonna, in most of these positions, you'll see that e6 is just a natural part of development for the Caro-Kann. So you want to make sure this bishop is out before you play that. And first, we need to look out for a trap here. If they play h4 and you go ahead and play e6, which is the traditional move, you've trapped your bishop, because they can go here, which is protected by the queen. If you go back, they take, and if you're baited and you think, oh, they gave up a free rook, go here, there, and then if you go back, now you're trapped. There are no squares for you to go to that don't result in capture of your bishop. So when you play the exchange variation, make sure if you see h4, you either immediately counter, or you can choose to go back first. I mean, as long as you're not trapping your own bishop, you're in a good position. So just keep that in mind while you play the Caro-Kann advanced. But go ahead with the advanced here. We bring the bishop out, and then let's say they don't play that. Instead, they bring their horse out, and then you push the pawn at e6. Some variations allow you to just go ahead and do this immediately, because if they take, you're just going to win it back anyways. Honestly, this is more baity and probably better for beginners if you're trying to like get quick development early, but I personally always just play more like structural and will push onto e6. So that's why I would recommend, let's say they bring their knights out, then you push, because you're trying to make space for your knight, and this is protected by your bishop, so you're in a good position here. From here, I mean, just play chess, but this is where I would say this opening ends. There's not a lot that can happen from here that's not just middle game at this point, because they're going to bring their bishops out somewhere, and then you're going to develop your knights. Boom, bring their bishop out. Not obviously not there, but to like b5, and then you would just back up your knight here and just get ready to castle. I mean, castling is really where the middle game begins, in my opinion. But take that as you will. And so, last but not least, we will be playing the classical variation. And the classical variation is one of my least favorite variations to play with, because you will see it, let's say, so the classical variation, you always take, mostly take. I would say for a beginner, it's fair to just always take, because you bring something like this out, right? They're either going to move this or reinforce it. They may go with bishop, and then you can just, and you get a pretty much even position here. I would say you honestly, if you take, you get an even position, and then you're gonna fight to go e6. You're gonna fight, like that's a big theme, like even in the classical variation, because you're gonna go here because you can bait this, right? So let's say they just develop there, you go here, they take, bring your bishop out, you're ready to castle. So just the crucial moves of e6 and then c5, I would say for the advanced and for the classical, that's like crucial in your development, because the point of c5 is not only is it protected by the bishop and you're going to get that quick development. If they take, you can also bring your knight out, and I mean, who doesn't want to bring more pieces to the board? It just increases your chance of checkmate. So yeah, those are the 3 variations, but we only covered them if they put 2 pawns in the center of the board, where I've seen it many times where we're playing the Caro-Kann and they bring their knight out first, and you go here and they go here. This is a common one for the classical variation, and it's called the 2 knights attack, and I will always respond before taking with pinning this, because ideally you're looking for them not to take back, which they probably will, and then you just get an exchange variation, or you get something like this, right? But either way, now you're taking the center and you're putting pressure on the knight, because the knight can't stay here, but you got this laser beam, so they go here, probably not there because that's a blunder. But they may go somewhere like here. You go ahead and take, and then you can go ahead and try to reinforce this pawn. You're probably gonna lose it, but you put yourself in a position where white's really vulnerable in the position. They have three pieces all in the same square. Um, it's not really good for them, and the engine says it's pretty much equal, just slightly in the favor of white by 0.1. So yeah, so it's just that bishop pin is very crucial in this position. So yeah, that's the Caro-Kann defense. I don't play e4 myself because it's a highly theoretical move, but you do see it a lot. And as I said in the beginning, especially if you're a beginner and you're facing scholar mate attacks a lot, I mean, it's very hard. It's very hard to get scholars mated because you see this and it immediately stops the bishop. And they take, and now they got to move their bishop or they're going to lose it. So you're in a much better position here, up a point in the engine's term. So for early levels, I would say sub 800. It's a great defense. It's a great defense against, and the I think the beauty of it is literally no matter what they play after e4. Like let's say they even play something like this, like you can still go ahead with this. You know what I mean? You probably won't want to, but it's just so solid. Like you can just play two moves and you have your opening done for you. And stuff like e4 and you play the Sicilian, like there's however many tens and dozens of lines that for the Sicilian, like the accelerated dragon, or it's just too much for a beginner. I don't play the French, but I know the French is very similar with e6 and then d5 with the advanced and then the exchange. It's similar topic, but it's a different theory because it's just completely separate part of the board. But the Caro-Kann is my personal favorite response to e4, and I would recommend it for any beginner. Shout out to Gotham Chess who taught me this, and then I used it in my club play, and it worked wonders, and it really helped bring my rating up because it gave me a solid foundation. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm continuing to put up shorts on this channel, entertaining, trying to bring new people into the audience. So I'd really appreciate it if you like, share, comment, tell me what you would like to see, what I could do better. I really appreciate it. I'm no master, of course, in chess. I'm just like a club player, 1400, 1500. So I'm just sharing some information that helped me work as a beginner that I didn't think was super accessible. So yeah, please let me know how I'm doing. And thanks so much for watching. Appreciate you. And this is the Chess Monkey signing off.